Hi there, I'm Mark, welcome to IronWorks Brewing, and on this video we're going to convert this larder fridge into this 3-tap kegerator. Okay, so let's first of all talk about the actual fridge itself. There are a few things that you do need to be aware of if you're going to do this kind of stuff. Whether it doesn't really matter whether it's a larder fridge, the tall version like this, or whether it's the under-counter type stuff, is that the refrigeration elements and all the workings will invariably be right across the back, in the sides, possibly in the top. And obviously at this side as well. So drilling in and putting fixings or drilling through to get onto the inside of the unit is fraught with you hitting refrigeration, electrical cables and all of that kind of stuff. The other thing I would say as well is that some larder fridges these days, the modern ones, they also come with temperature displays on the actual door. So again, please do take extra care if you're drilling through the door in relation to that. And obviously those that have got ice machines and all of that kind of stuff have got other gubbins in the door. This is fairly basic from that perspective, and there's nothing coming through. Having a look at the hinges are reversible, so there's nothing, there's no interconnections, there's no like sort of little conduit pipe works or anything like that on the inside of this that would suggest that there's anything in the door. Hence why this one is perfect for being able to sort of fix the taps, drip tray, and the gas lines and everything else. It's also why I went away from my last kegerator that I built. I actually did manage to drill through the sides, and on one occasion I hit a refrigeration line, and that was a game over for that particular fridge. On this particular build, what I'm going to do is everything's going to go in through the door. So the main things that you need to think about in terms of that, I'll come on to in a second. So on my other kegerator, you'll have seen the one that I've got the taps on and all that kind of stuff. Really cracking piece of kit, that one. But on that one, I could actually get 2 of the Kegland kegs side by side in that one. And this one, you definitely can't. I can get one and a corny keg, and I can easily get 2 corny kegs side by side. Even at the bottom I could get 2 corny kegs, so I could get 4 definitely of the corny kegs. At the top I could probably get 2 of the Keglands at a bit of a squeeze. The other thing I've already done in here is I've got a bit of Perspex, clear Perspex set up, and that replaces the glass shelf. I weren't too comfortable in terms of the weight. When these are full, obviously there's the weight of the actual keg, but there's also then nearly 20 litres of beer in there as well. So one of the things I wanted to do was to make sure that it could take the weight. Digital controller, I've set this set temperature. It's actually governed by the Inkbird, which will be coming in a slightly different route. But essentially, I set this one to around about 3 degrees, and then let the Inkbird turn the fridge on and off, and then the Inkbird will do sort of the work. So the first thing really we need to work out is, obviously I don't want to be hitting anything on the internals. It's always handy to have an extra shelf just left in there, and actually the taps probably will fit about here anyway, so they'll come through in sort of this location. So having a shelf is handy for putting sort of packets of yeast and stuff like that in. It's great for that and any other sundry items that you might have that you need to keep chilled. I also use these little baskets, and the way I've got it set up means I can actually put those on top of there. Keeps my hops chilled and that kind of stuff. This is just a temporary setup, so ignore that for now. The other thing to note is you will also be able to, in this particular size of fridge, you can actually get the commercial kegs, so the 30-litre kegs, you can get those as well. You know, this will take that weight. I've already done that on the other kegerator, and no problem at all in taking the weight. You can have one at the top and then sort of slide another one in, and you can have one at the bottom as well if you're wanting sort of the commercial kegs, not just your own brewed beer as well. So it gives you that opportunity to mix and match as you go. Obviously we've got us taps. So the taps come dependent on the thickness of the door. You're working on the principle of sort of the main shank. That's on the outside. That's obviously through the door, and then that tightens down and compresses, makes a nice tight fit against the door. So I'll be working out where I want those, and then sort of looking at that. Where do I want to bring it through? So it doesn't matter if it just goes just slightly underneath, but that's probably about the perfect height anyway. The other thing will be the drip tray. Now, my other kegerator, the door was bowed slightly. That was the design of it. This one's flat, so actually it makes a slightly nicer finish. But what I'm going to be doing on this one, obviously when that's fitted, I'm going to look at what the height difference is. So you can actually fit the bottle filler in the Nuka tap one, so that slides inside. And the way I'd got it configured before, it was just too tight, and it made it quite difficult to be able to get the bottles in and underneath. So this time I'm going to take a bit more time and care, and I'm going to work out actually what's the optimum height, so I can, one, use it as a drip tray for my beer and pour in normally, but two, to be able to do bottling off there as well, and make it a little bit easier. So that's there, and there's three going to be side by side. I could have gone with 4 taps, but what I find is obviously that's 4 kegs of beer. I've got 4 kegs of beer in there already. But actually it's handy to have one, so one you can be rotating through, but you want to keep it cool, or actually you want to use it to chill down another beer once it's finished and it's conditioning and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the 3 taps on this one. I'm not going to work on the principle. At some point in the future I might even go to 4. I'll have one smack bang in the middle, and then the others just offside of it, so that they fit nicely over the actual drip tray. The other bit is we're going to be fitting a junction box. So it's going to have a couple of these gas posts. I'm going to drill some holes through here, 13mm holes. That's going to fit through, and then all the workings, sort of the connections for the gas. So there's going to be one for 7030, one for CO2, and then in there there'll be some elbows, and then I'm going to drill through the back of the box again into the door, so that'll be fixed to the door just down there. Now the gas posts themselves will be on this side. They're not going to get impinged by the door opening or anything like that. I'll use either some rib nuts or some self-tapping screws to fix that there, drill through, and then I'll fill that hole that I created, the gap that's around it, with some, I've got some foam insulation I can sort of fill around there. But essentially they're going to sit on the outside. That means I can very, very quickly do my disconnects. I have a disconnect on the CO2, and then there'll be one for CO2, one for 7030. I'll mark those up, and so that'll all be nice and neat. And again, we're not drilling anything, getting anywhere near the workings of the actual fridge. And then in the bottom I'm going to fix a little compression grommet, and that's where currently the Inkbird temperature probe is just slotted in through the door, but that'll go in through there and then through the same hole, and then be fixed on the inside to be able to monitor the internal temperature. Okay, so I think they're the main things in terms of the fridge. This one was it's a second in terms of some damage that's on there. So again, I think retail price of these is just ridiculous, to be honest, but being able to get one that's got some damage on, it doesn't matter in here. It gets battered and whacked with cylinders and kegs and been in and out and all that kind of stuff, but it's more than good enough for what I need. And the main thing is there's nothing wrong with the actual cooling capacity and cooling workings of it, so that's really good. Right, I'm going to flip over and we're going to talk tools and stuff like that now. And other bits and bobs of equipment, and we're going to start to build up the junction box and look at then starting to mark out with some masking tape around where we're going to be fitting the various components. Right then, so we're going to need some tools and a few bits and bobs to be able to create this. We're going for the 3-tap kegerator, and I'll swap you over here and we'll go through what bits of tools and sort of sundry items that you're going to need to connect obviously your kegs to your taps, and obviously the gas onto the regulators and then onto the kegs as well. There's a few other items that you're going to need as we go through, but I'm going to swap you over here and we'll get cracking into that. Okay, so there's a few items and it looks a little bit overwhelming. This is not everything, but this is sort of the main part of it. Because I'm going to put the gas posts onto a junction box that's going to fit to the door, that's what I've got this for, and therefore we've got these posts, they'll fix in through there. But let's run through the tools that we'll need. So we're going to need some masking tape. That will become clear. It's easier to put masking tape onto where you're going to be drilling and then marking that, and then you can get it absolutely bang on before you start to do any drilling. A couple of spanners, probably a 19mm, to be able to tighten up certain nuts as we go through. We need a decent square. This is just a cheap one, but ideal to be able to get your level, particularly for the taps and the drip tray. Some drills. You're going to need a variety of high-speed steel drill bits. Up to 13mm. The size of this thread is 13mm, so up to 13mm for those. They also allow you to do any pilots through as well. You're going to need some hole cutters. 25mm is the size you're going to need for the actual tap itself. That's what goes through the door and secures the tap to the door. Also a 20mm one. Hole cutter, which will be used for fitting other things like this compression gland and other little bits and bobs, and also drilling through for the gas lines through the door as well. A couple of files. I've got these small ones. These might not be good enough. I've also got some larger ones as well for just in case. Trusty tape measure and screwdriver sorted. Oh, and of course a drill. Ideally, if you've got something that's got sort of variable speed, that allows you to control it better. Some safety specs. Obviously, when you're drilling metal in particular, you want to protect your eyeballs. And then in terms of, I think that's all. These are handy little gadgets as well. If you've not seen these before, these are really handy for cutting pipe, particularly the beer gas lines, and it cuts it absolutely bang square. So when you're pushing it onto the push fits, there's no potential for it to leak out and it not seat properly. So always worth the investment. I think they're a couple of quid, but these are really, really good. In terms of tools, I think that's it. We need a pen or a pencil to be able to do the markings, where we're going to be putting obviously our tape across. We'll then do the markings on there, and we will be able to then see what we're doing. And I think the only other bit, not for tools, I think they're probably the main ones. Actually, I've also got a riv nut tool. So this will be to secure the drip tray to the door. You don't have to use riv nuts, but I'm going to use these stainless steel. They've got a knurled sort of end on, and they'll go through there, and it means that when I'm ready to clean it, I can just undo that, and it will then be able to, basically, I'll be able to unpull it, unscrew it, and then take it off for any cleaning that I need to be doing. So they're riv nuts. You need a specific tool to be able to install those. You drill a hole, I think it's a couple of mils bigger than the riv nut itself. That then goes in the hole, and then the riv nut tool then effectively compresses it. And inside there, you probably won't be able to see, but inside there is a threaded, and this particular case, this is M6. And an assortment of M6 stainless bolts. Okay, so I think that's in terms of tools, we probably are the only stuff that we do need. In terms of the other bits, obviously we need beer and gas line. We need plenty of that. We need 3/8 and 5/16. We need some valves. I'm going to put a valve on for the inlet into the gas regulators, and I've already started to build this particular one up. So we've got 3 gas regulators, one for each of the taps. This will come off. I'm going to swap this round, and then we'll probably have an elbow on here, dependent on how it works out as we go, and in terms of fitting it to the door. And then what happens is your gas goes in through here, and then you can set your gas at, I don't know, 40, 50 psi going in, and then you can regulate the amount of gas pressure going to each individual keg. Now I'm also going to do, that's for the 70-30, I'm also going to do one for the CO2 as well. I'm waiting for another one of these to come because I actually want two, because I tend to normally have the 70-30, but occasionally I also do have one or sometimes two where I'm running CO2 as well. So what I'll do is I'll show you how these fit together, and I'll use this one as the example. So I've already started to build that one up. The other stuff we're going to need some connectors. These connectors are for the actual beer taps themselves on the inside. You'll see how that fits together, and you've got 3/8 push fittings on there. We've got some reducers and a whole sundry of different types of fittings. We've got some 3/8 elbows, we've got some 3/8 T, or 5/16 T actually. You've got some of those that thread on to the end of the disconnects, and in this case that's a 3/8. But I've got a bag full of different bits here. I will list every single item that I use on the description below, so please do look there for the details of all the different items. We've got a couple of gas posts with the thread on, and what will fit onto there is that'll go through the junction box, and then that'll fit onto the inside 3/8 gas line, and then there'll be a couple of elbows that'll then take it down and in through the door. Show you that as we get to it. So we've got a couple of those. I've only got two here, but the other one's just in the box. I've got 3 flow regulators. I know you can do that with the Kegling disconnects. You can get flow regulators on the top of there. I do find these really useful, particularly for managing how much foam you get from your beer. Simple stuff. They go in line. There's a flow direction arrow, and so flow through up to your tap, and then you basically, as it says there, open and close in terms of what flow you're going to get through your beer line. Valves. Now the compression gland, so the compression gland, the 2 gas posts are going to go this side, and then I'm going to fit a compression gland in the bottom, and then that's where my thermostatic probe's going to go up and inside, in through, and then go through with the gas lines into the fridge, so that we can measure and control the temperature, and I'll be using my Inkbird for that. Some valves, some fittings, I think. Oh, the drip tray. The drip tray's got 3 holes. Ideal. This one's great because it does cover the 3 taps. I'm going to put this slightly lower because I want to be able to use my Nuka tap bottler on there as well. So when I get to the point where I'm showing you those different elements, but I'll effectively mark those, masking tape on first, mark it, drill it, take the masking tape off, riv nuts on, and then, or self-tappers, this kind of thing, self-tapping screws you can also use. Okay, so this is our junction box. This is going to be the first thing that we're going to sort of set up. We've got our 2 gas posts, nut, that's a 13mm, and first thing we're going to do is we're just going to mark roughly off here. So what have we got there? Can be a little close. Let's have a look. Right. Then I think I will need the 25. So this is the same cutter that we'll need to drill through both sides of the door, one to get a pilot, but then also so that we don't blow it out too badly in terms of the plastic. But on this one, I want it to be the opposite side, because then I'll show you in a second, but they're going to go through there. There's going to be the fitting on the end, the John guess, the elbow, and then that'll take that down. And then we're going to drill a hole, 25mm hole, somewhere around about there. And I think we're probably in about the perfect spot, not too close to where the riv knot's going to go. So we'll just undo this. Get rid of the rubbish. Okay, so that's our box, nicely finished. So the first one, this is a compression fitting. So the temperature probe, it's a nice sort of size hole through there, but the temperature probe will go through there. That then tightens down and it squeezes on and closes it up. You've got a washer for the other side, and essentially that's going to go in the bottom. So that goes through there. Most of this stuff's more than adequate to be finger tight. Perhaps just nip up when we get to the, if I could put it that way, the gas posts. So 2 gas posts, one for CO2. So we're going to go, doesn't really matter at this stage because I can mark that out afterwards. Put the other one in at the same time. It's a nice snug fit, which is great. And then I've got a 19mm, just spin that round, 19mm spanner. That's great. So there are your gas posts. On you've got your grommet, got the holes drilled in readiness, so I'll mark those on the masking tape, and the one that's going to go through the door. Okay, so the next part is, I've started making some of these up, but John Guest push fittings, it's 3/8 little silicone washer, just pops on the inside of there. That's what creates the compression seal. I just need to press that down so it seats nicely. Not too much pressure, so I don't want to be damaging the seal. It's nicely in position, and then I've already started making these up. So that's the top one, and if you can see that neatly goes and just tightens down. Onto there. Great stuff. So there'll be the next part of this, there will be some gas line that goes down, another elbow, and then that'll take it through the hole in the door, down, and another one through there, and then the temperature probe will come up through there and then through the same hole and be fixed on the inside. So that's essentially, apart from obviously the final connections, I will spray some soapy water on just to make sure once we've connected up that we've got no leaks in there, but everything's pretty much good to go and ready for installation. And that'll be sat neatly on the outside doing the biz. And of course then your gas line, that's tight, will go on there, and then the other one on there, and then they'll just swivel into position, and then the line will come off there and then go down to the gas regulator, the cylinders regulator. Okay, so we're at that point now. We've made our junction box, and that's got our gas inlets and also a connection for our thermostatic probe. I think best thing to do now is to mark out the door in terms of where we want to put stuff, and then we can start drilling some holes. The first thing I've done is I have actually tried to get the fridge as level as possible, but I'm not going to go on that. I'm actually going to go, because it's not bang on, that's a small level, it's close, but my plan is I'm going to go with this, and this will effectively use the square, the straight edge off the actual door, so it's everything's in line with the actual door itself off this edge, and I think that'll work really well. Right, so measuring down across there, if we're below the 21 centimeters off the top, which includes this little bit of a finishing detail as well, so that's all pretty good. So if we work off 24, I think 24, that's probably about the right height. We will just offer one up in a second just to see, but we now need to put some masking tape on, so anywhere around that sort of 24 mark. It doesn't need to be too high, too low, so if we go less than 25. We're going to mask enough of all that. Then we want our straight, not bad in terms of putting it on by the eye. I'm not on any grommets or anything in the door, so that's nice and straight. So these are your taps, and this is a Nuka tap, and you've got the different fittings that go on to the Nuka tap, and this is the shank. So the shank is what goes through the door, and that is dictated by how thick your door is. So if we go to there, our door, actually it's inside there, so that's going to come just through enough for me to be able to get that nut on and then tighten it back against the door itself, going through there. So we're below the shelf, that means I've got a usable shelf, and by just eyeing sort of that, that's a, if we go use that just above there as the centre line, we've then got space for our tap badges. Why do we come down a little bit? I think come down a little bit actually. Space for our tap badges just underneath the branding of the fridge itself, it don't really matter. So the tap badges just there. Yep, let's work on that. First thing we need to do, if that's where we're going to be going through, is get a nice straight line that's 90 degrees to the edge. I have tested for level, but level's sort of close, it's not bang on. And then from there, we're just going to put a line across. Okay, so we've got our line that's at 90 degrees to our edge, so irrelevant in terms of the whether that's bang on level or not. And we then need to measure the door. The door is 58.2, so that's 29.1. We got 29.1, so that's our centre point, and that's our first tap. And then we need to measure the drip tray. It's like 30.1, So that's 300. So we've got 300 drip tray. So we've got 15 either side of the drip tray. Drip tray. So if you went halfway, so that'd be 7.5. Centre point at 5.5. Off 15, 5.5. And 15, 5.5. Okay, so we're going to look at the drip tray marking position now. So plenty of room there for the taps. That's your centre line of the door, and then the drip tray will overhang slightly. So that'll mean that 3 pints, 3 halves, 3 glasses, whatever, will sit just nicely in that position. So we've got the Nuka tap, and like I said, I also want to make provision so that the Nuka tap counter pressure bottle filler kit, I've seen it, I can get my head around it, will fit in there. That's fab. Right, okay. That's my Nuka tap. That'll go onto the shank and be sort of around about there. It's the normal outlet that you get with the Nuka tap, not the stout one. Screw that on, and then if you've not seen these, so this is the counter pressure bottle filler by Kegland. You've got a gas inlet there, you've got your beer inlet there, and then we've got a bottle. I'll just whip the lid off. So these are slightly taller than the 500ml glass bottles, and I tend to use this particular type in the majority anyway. And you've got an extending sort of wand, for want of a better, and you just want to push that down to where the bottom of your bottle is and push it up so that it seals. Then what you will do is you will purge by pressing this button just here. That will allow the CO2 into your bottle, purging out the oxygen, and you basically just throttle this backwards and forwards. You can set it by turning it, and then that will allow the CO2, the oxygen, to be pushed out and fill it with CO2. Then when you're ready, you then trying to work on the same kind of gas pressure as what you've got on your keg, as to what you've got on your gas in. That then, your tap's there fitted obviously onto your kegerator. That slides nicely on there. That pushes up, so the bottle's pushed up and sealed, and then basically you just turn on the tap, and that allows the beer and the gas to flow. That's how it works. So effectively, obviously that's going to be out there slightly, so I need it to be lower than that, so I can then disconnect, pull it to one side, and then draw it away. So there's marks there, and that's for the bottom of the bottle. So if we go bottom of the bottle, say there, still good enough for the drip. So my riv nuts are going to be around about that position. 61.5, that's roughly there. What was it? 29.1. Yeah. 29.1. And then we want to 61. Off the top of that. It's like a feature on the top. 61.5 is there. Get my square,
Nicely pushed up against that one. It moved. That's never good. So good. Fantastic.
1:15:30. Yeah.
So if we work on that, has been 1. That has been 2. And that has been 3.
That's just going through the plate, the skin of the door, and then the riv nuts will compress behind it. And so it's not going all the way through the door. Those 3 are going all the way through the door. And then this one, just making sure there's where if there's anything else. So roughly in this area, there's nothing else on the inside that will cause me a problem. Okay, so while I'm sat down, let's have a look. I've marked roughly the top, the side and the bottom, so give me some idea. I've checked the inside so that I know that where I'm coming through, there's nothing that's going to stop, you know, like any of this sort of, I don't know if you can see that, but this internal profiling detail. First thing I need to do is get some masking tape on. So I can transfer my lines across. So great stuff. So we know that's our top, that's our outer line. Great stuff. So 4 riv nuts and a 25mm hole through the centre. That'll be then fixed to there. So here we've got the taps 1, 2 and 3. 3. That's the outside edge of the drip tray, so the glass will sit neatly. You've also got space above the tap just here for the magnetic tap badges. Then coming down, you've got the drip tray, centre line, and then the markings for the riv nuts and or self tappers, whichever way you prefer, and then they'll be drilled, piloted out, and then the bolts fitted. And then the final piece has been, we've put the markings in for the junction box that has got the gas post and the thermostatic probe. There'll be a hole through there, 25mm, that'll allow both the 2 3/8 gas lines to go into the inside of the unit. I will pilot this first, so there'll be a pilot hole goes through to both, so I've got an indication of where it is on this side and obviously on the inside, and then that means that I'll be able to drill from this side with the hole cutter, get us pretty much all the way through, and then swap it and go back to the other side and then drill it from that side. And I will do exactly the same with these. These are 25mm hole cut through, and they will allow the tap shanks to be able to fit. Let's get started. So nice and steady. Let the drill do the work. Okay, so that's gone through the metal. You feel it pulling through, and then you go through the other side. So there's the insulation on the inside, obviously the steel outer coating, and then the insulation. Let me just open that up, swap you around a little bit. And as you can see, that we've got our hole nice and neat all the way through, so plenty of space around there. And that's why it's important to check on the inside. Keep checking the inside dimensions roughly to where you think you're going to be coming through, and make sure you've got plenty of space all around. And the same for the taps, which will be coming through around about here. So that's where the gas lines are going to come through, and also the thermostatic probe, and then that's pretty much in the center then of the fridge itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap over to the 25mm cutter. These are very, very good SALI cutters. I've used them on various different projects. They'll cut through pretty much anything, mild steel, stainless steel, that kind of stuff. Because they don't have many teeth, if you've ever used a hole cutter before, they tend to have lots and lots of little teeth. But because they don't have many, they can be a little bit bouncy as you're pushing through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through. I'm going to get right the way through in terms of the insulation as far as I can. I'm then going to come from the inside and drill through the other way. And then I've got some nice clean finishes on both sides. Don't need to apply too much pressure, just let the drill bit do the work. It's only thin steel. I'm using my knee to just counteract the twist of the drill. Okay, so that's the metal removed. A metal disc there. Just lighten the bin. And then we've got our foam insulation. This looks like there's some protective outer sheath, a bit of rubber or rubberized material or fleecing or something. And I'm going to then just continue to let the drill cut through the insulation to the point where it won't go any further. So that's my hole completed. And there's our hole. That's our first hole. If I just take you off the camera mount, be able to see through there. Well, you might be able to actually just see through. You get a nice clean finish. I'll just wipe that down in a second. Nice clean finish, and then obviously you might need to. In fact, it's very smooth. There's no sharp edges on there for as the beer lines come through. And this is the outside looking in, so you can't see in there. If I just open, you can see the light through there. Okay, so now what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at drilling for the riv nuts, and then we can remove the actual masking tape, give it a wipe down, and then see whether we need to deburr anything here. It feels fairly smooth. I will just whip the file around it just to be sure. And yeah, we'll get the riv nuts inserted. Okay, so we've got our 4 holes, which is what the junction box is going to be secured by. And I'm just going to get into the centre of there, slow and steady. Let the drill do the work. We'll try the 7.5. It might be the 8, but we'll see. Very little difference there, to be honest. Let's see. Oh, 7.5, perfect. So we can now clear this off. This stuff's also handy once you've got it off like this. To mop up any bits. Great stuff. So if you are using, and you've got the ability to use a riv nut tool, this is what they look like. I need the M5. So you find get your riv knot, get your actual, that's not the right one. Do I even have M5 in? Already set up, look at that. Okay, so that's great. Let me just put that out of the way. Super. So this is a riv knot tool. It basically works by compressing. So you open it up, open the tool up, and you can set sort of the amount of bite it actually gives by adjusting here. But essentially you put your M5 riv knot on, you push it in through the hole, you then close the levers, like that, and undo. And there you've got a captive nut in position that's a really solid fixing. Okay, so they're the riv nuts in and secured into position. The next thing, obviously then what happens is that'll then screw in there, and you've got a really good metal fixing to metal fixing, which will help with when you're pushing the disconnects on and off and pulling. You've got a really secure fixing. Self-tappers will probably do the same, equally as good a job, so no worries. I will just deburr. I've got a couple of little files. I'm just going to... Great stuff. So no burrs on there, nice and smooth. And once we've got the lines installed, what I'll be doing then is I will fill that. I've got some foam insulation and I'll fill it from both sides, but until it's installed and we've done all the leak testing, I'll leave that as to one of the last jobs. Okay, so let's fit the gas box, junction box. The first one in, just a couple of turns. Great. That's great. Okay, so that's our junction box fitted, our two gas outlets, and then this, which is the Inkbird temperature probe, that will come in and go up through the compression fitting. We're now going to start on the drip tray. We'll drill the holes, get the riv nuts fitted, take the tape off, and then I won't put the drip tray on. I'll just do a quick test to make sure everything's aligned, and then we'll get on to the taps. We'll look at these. I think the pan heads on these are probably just a little bit too big to go through, so I will have to take them off completely. I'll take them out completely, won't just undo and lift off. If not, I might have to, that's got it. I might have to just take a little bit out of the drip tray. But essentially, that's our drip tray. Just do the middle one. Our drip tray in position. Okay, one thing I did forget to say at the beginning was we started doing the drilling and all the stuff in terms of the metalwork, and I will flash it up if I've not done already on the screen, but is these, you're drilling metal, and although you're doing it nice and slow and steady, there's always the possibility of something whipping up and getting in your eye, so always safety glasses. Okay, so we're back to the 5.5mm bits. This is going to be the pilot. We're going to drill all the way through so that we've got our line, and then we've got the, where is it, the 25mm hole cutter, and we're going to do exactly the same as what we did down there, but we'll drill the 3 pilot holes first. steady. It's gone through the insulation. It's now on the inside plate. Nice and level and through the inside. Okay, so we should have our 3 lines, which we've 3 holes rather, which we've got in there, and we'll now drill exactly the same principle as down there. We'll drill from outside and then inside and clear out the insulation. Okay, so we've cleared the stuff out of the hole saw, and we're just going to push that now into the insulation. That's it. Same on this one. Pushing through the insulation. It won't go all the way through, it stops on this. Anyway, that's fabulous. So we'll go to the inside now. You can see those, the hole through, and that's that bit sorted. So I'm just going to clean down all the insulation and stop that blowing about, and I'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, so we've got us holes. We'll just get rid of the clean that down afterwards. We've got a little bit of burring on the metalwork, so I'll just get the file and I'll clean that off and come back to you in a minute. Okay, so I've done the deburring. This is why it's important to take your time. I've just literally come off with a file and just slightly scored this, like, so there's a, looks like a plastic film over the top of the metal, but that's going to get covered. They do have these sort of nice finish plates on as well that gives you a little bit of extra play, but do take your time. Okay, so first tap in. I'm going to go same configuration, Nuka. I don't know what the name of the other one is. It's got flow control and it's got a nice longer spout on it. That's handy for lagers, ciders and that kind of stuff. Okay. As you can see, we've got plenty of thread through. You do need to measure the door so that you'll know exactly what length of shank you'll need. And then you've got your returning nut. We'll nip those up with a pair of grips. I can also then get them levelled up. So same again, you can see it from the inside this time, coming through. It will compress a little bit because obviously this is solid, reasonably solid, but it will give, because obviously it is expanding foam insulation that's on the inside of there. So just tighten it down. It doesn't need to be absolutely solid. And then the final tap I've got is this one. And as I said, it's got the slightly longer spout on it. Ideal, I don't know. It just seems to be great at pouring for ciders, lagers, that kind of stuff. And it has also got the flow control. I've taken all my taps to pieces and put them in the, what's it called? Enzy, what's it called? Enzy Brew 10. So they've all had a really good fettle, and then they will obviously get cleaned. And we'll run through the purple beer line cleaner. Let's give that a wipe down as well. So there we go, there's this third one. So this one's a slightly different shank, and you do need a different outlet. These are push on, and then there's a what's it called, like a Jubilee clip that then screws around there, and then I will then put my elbows on to drop and away to the kegs. This one you've got, it's a John Guest push fit, I think it's 5/16, and it's got a screw on and a silicone washer on the inside, and that seals that quite nicely. Just swap you over so you can have a better look. Okay, right, so we're getting ready to do the gas regulators now. So I will just swap the cameras round, but essentially I've already started to build these up. This is from the old Kegerator. I've just adjusted some of the stuff slightly. So the main things that we've got here, we've obviously got 3 gas regulators. I've got a 3/8 input with a tap, and then everything reduces down. So we've got 3/8 to 5/16 reducer, and then all the outlets and everything off the kegging gas regulators, inlets and outlets, are all 5/16. So it's just cobbled together. So obviously we've got 2 T-pieces and an elbow, your gas going in, and then obviously if you need to do something individually, you can just turn it off completely at the gas reg. I have seen some gas boards where they put an individual tap valve in line with each individual one of those. I haven't got any, so I thought, well, I can just isolate the actual main gas board off, and then if I needed to do anything individually, like I said, I can just wind that back, and then that'll be effectively just stop any gas going through. So I'll swap you over to the workbench. I'm just going to mark these up now, and I'll show you the one for the CO2 in terms of I'll put it together. Okay, so this is the 3 outlets. I will be adding an additional one to this. I'm just waiting for it to arrive, and I've already got my T-piece and my elbow in readiness for that, so I'll just disconnect that. So I'll leave enough space to be able to put another one just underneath it. So I've got, essentially I've got 3 that are going to be measuring the 70/30 and regulating the 70/30, and then I'm going to have 2 that'll be CO2, and those 2 will then obviously individually regulate when I've got CO2 connected, because like I said, I do have a bit of a mix. Invariably I only ever have one, but it's always handy just to have that second one. And yeah, so I've already started to build this up, and I'm starting to think about where I need to put stuff. So I've got my Kegland regulator, I've got an elbow, and I'll show you for why I've done the elbows like this. Actually, when they go in and they're going to be fixed to the door, they're going to go pretty much like that. So they're going to be sideways on, so you can more easily read. I had them that way before in the old Kegerator, and although it was reasonably easy to see, actually by having them that way, it's easier to see the markings on the dial as well. So push fits all the way, and we're just going to connect up the isolating tap. So again, I tend to do it through sort of direction for flow, and then obviously if it's off you can tell straight away. On this one I've left a little bit of 3/8 tube between, so I'm going to do the same here. And then that's this tool here. So this tool, really handy, is essentially you put your gas line in there, and then the little cutter cuts straight in and through. So I've got a piece already on here, and I'll come in a little bit closer and show you that. So if I cut it roughly about there, it doesn't have to be absolutely bang on, you just press the 2 together and it neatly slices and gives you a very, very clean cut. Ideal obviously for the push fits, because then it means that they actually push in completely flat, so it's assisting the internals. I don't know if you can see that in there, but the internals to be able to get a nice good seal. So basically you just push it on, and that's it. Now some of these push fits do come with these Retaining clips. These particular ones don't, so I will, where they come with retaining clips, I will reuse the retaining clips. Where they don't, I won't bother. Okay, so we're inside the fridge, and the first one we're going to mark up is the 70-30 regulators. Now, I found actually where the hole was drilled from the inside, a little bit of insulation is just to block it off temporarily, but this is a tank connector, so for your like sort of domestic central heating system. I think it's a 3/4 inch. I'll double check that, but it was just in a box of plumbing stuff. I thought that might be ideal just on the inside for stuff to come through, and it nicely finishes it off. And then I might put a blob of silicone just in there just to seal off, and maybe that from the outside. Okay, so what I'm sort of thinking is, obviously the CO2 and the 70-30 are going to come through here. And what I was thinking is, we're out of the way of the taps, we've got a little bit of space, but we're up against, not too far up against, but we'll try and get them as straight as we can, and then do a line down, and then do some pilot drills and mark where that's going to go. I'm not too precious about this, I won't cut that out, it'll just literally come forward for where the line comes through, and then the 3/8 line will come through, connect into there, and then I've got my gas ready. So we'll mark up for that, and then see where we get to. So I think if we go in there, so we've got our 2mm drill bit, our first mark, and then we will level that off. Just put that there for a second. We've also got some panhead self-tapping screws, but also they are stainless steel. So we will just put those on that bit of tissue, put that on the floor for a second, and we will drill our first hole. That's all it needs. And we've got the gas regs through, and then a positive drive screw. Before we tighten it down, it doesn't have to be overly tight. Clip the next one in. Look at where the next one is. And get a rough. So we'll use our set square, and we'll come off the side of the fridge to try and get it as reasonably levelled as possible. And I think that's trying to could do it a bit like an octopus. That's our next mark. Keep getting in the way. Okay, so these are our gas posts. These are what we fitted earlier. I've just tightened up the nuts on those. I'm going to mark this one just with a red dot, and then that red can carry on throughout. So we'll put a red dot on here, red dot on here, and then we can see what's what. Okay. So we need 2 elbows on, one on either end. We'll do
really matter. With that one first, and then this one second. So we've got our red marks, that denotes this one, and that's going to go through there with that. So I'm going to shuffle these around so that I get them roughly into the right places, and then do a bit of a quick measure. So push it in. Come to that one first. Now these are the ones that have got the retainer on. There we go. Pull that back. These are the little retaining clips that come with some of them. That'll go in there and it stops it from being depressed. Not fed up depressed, as in inadvertently pushed up against and then potential for it to release. This is going to be a little bit snug, so we'll see whether we can do it this way first. Let's see, that's got the John Guester in. Now, the other advantage of having that bit of tube that fitting on the inside is that I'm not pushing against the insulation on this at all. And I think that's got it. I will pressure test these, obviously, once we get them fitted. Now, the other thing, whilst I'm in the junction box, and I've got a little bit of play here, so I can pull that back a little, is I will get the temperature probe and I will pass that also through. That needs to come up through the compression fitting first, and then in through the door. I think that's going to work nicely. Okay, so as you can see there, we've got red dot, that's our 7030. We've got our temperature probe, and I'm going to see how that goes. It's probably just going to sit somewhere like that, but if I do need to, I've got enough to be able to pull up and through. So we want roughly about that much. That pushes in to that one, and then pushes in to that one. Beeping's telling me the door's open on the fridge, which clearly I know. And then I need a little bit more 3/8 and an elbow to come up to there. Now, this is the Inkbird temperature probe. I'm just going to tweak that so it comes this side. Tie wrap or something just to hold that so it's not touching anything, nicely out of the way. But essentially that's our gas layout. Okay, so we've got, I've just marked them up, I've got label 7030, same on the junction box outside, I'll show you that in a second. And then we've got our CO2, and we've got the lines from last time. So on the end of here we've got non-return valves showing the flow direction, which is denoted by a little arrow. I don't know if you can see that on there, but a little arrow, and that stops anything for if you've got any issue in terms of fluid or anything coming back up the opposite way. That will check that and stop that from happening. So we're going to go red, so I'm going to push that in there, I might just need to reduce the size of these down a little bit. Yeah, probably to about there on all of them. So I'll cut those down, remark them, and come back to you in a second. Okay, so I've done the CO2. So we've got the CO2, once a spark, always a spark. You've got a different colour tape for the CO2. You'll notice I haven't got a non-return valve. I need to get an extra one of those. I've just spotted I haven't got enough to be able to put one on there, so I will get one of those and fit that on there. I've got CO2 on, so CO2 is connected outside. I'll just show you that. And then it's the same principle. So that's why I was like this, because it's going to move up and down, and I've got that set at currently just under 20 psi, connected in through there, in through the gas box, marked up my posts on the outside. So that's all good. So CO2 coming in, I've cable tied the thermostatic probe, so that's neatly out of the way. And the next job is to put the beer on, beer lines on up here. But I'll do that in a second. I'm just going to stick the gas on. So the gas is on there. We've got that's turned off. So now we're going to build a bit of pressure up. So that's at maximum, and that's the same as the regulator coming in. So I'm going to leave that now for a couple of hours disconnected, and that'll test for any leaks. Okie dokes. Whoops. I'll just clear all the stuff out. I've got those lines connected. But in terms of accessibility, you can open the door. You can see obviously your kegs, you're colour coded for your different lines, and you can see what your gas pressures are, nice and steady. Okay, so we're going to just connect the regulator to the 70-30 mix. That's what we've got here, or 30-70 mix. If you've used this kind of stuff before, you'll notice that it's a different regulator for the type of gas. So the CO2, you've got an external thread, so it's a male outlet, and then a female nut that goes over the actual cylinder, connects on there. There is also a very solid white plastic washer that goes in there, and adjustable wrench, tighten it up, and you're good to go. Same principle for fitting. This one's slightly different. This one's got a 3/8 John Guest push fit outlet, and also an inline valve as well, to be able to isolate it as required. And then you've got your two pressure gauges. You've got your inlet pressure, and then your inlet pressure gauge, and then your outlet pressure that you're regulating. And this one, instead of having the handle, has got a thumb screw or a screwdriver, and then you adjust it based on that. So essentially all we need to do is just clear a bit of space. As you can see, this is basically sliding, it's fixed. You've got a silicone seal on the end, and then basically that fits. You'll not be able to see this, so you just bear with me 1 second. See whether they can get in to see what I'm doing. It's quite awkward. So basically you're pushing that into there, then very carefully just start the threads. Don't need to be, if it don't go, it's not in the right position, because these are machined. And then just finger tighten that down, just wiggle in the regulators, because that's the silicone seal on the end. Push that out of the way. Then you've got your adjustable wrench. I'm just going to press it up against the wall. So nicely tightened. I've got my gas valve off, my inline valve just there off at the minute, and obviously you've got the thumb turn on the actual cylinder, same for both. And crack that open. So that's showing it's got 40, in fact it's probably got 45 psi at this particular point, and we've got plenty of gas within the cylinder. If I was to just crack that, you'll be able to hear, I'm sure, that running, and then I can then adjust this to what pressure I want it to come into the actual 730 post, and then the three regulators then will give me a dispensing pressure what I want. So I'll probably set them up dependent on the type of beer I'm actually, and also the tap outlet that I'm going to be using. I'll show you down here. So 30-70, 70-30 gas mix, whichever way you want to call it. We've got pressure on, and we are also got plenty of gas. We've got his inline valve, which is part of the regulator body. Then there's just a loop of 3/8 pipe that goes onto the 70-30 bull disconnect. So as you can see, they're both neatly, just need to tidy up this little area, but neatly off there, and that will rotate open and close. There we go, like that, no problems. In the bottom, you've got your temperature probe lead, which goes up to the ink bird. I just need to look at where I'm going to locate that. And then inside, we've now got gas coming in here. So these are all off or loose, and I can then turn that on and then start to. So we've got red at the top. That's the citrus sunburst. So I'll probably be dispensing that through either a normal spout, possibly a stout spout. We'll have a look and see. If you're using the stout spout, you do need to think about what gas pressure, because obviously you're forcing it through very, very tiny holes, and that's what gives it the much smaller bubbles. And with obviously the 70-30 mix of 70% nitrogen, 30% CO2, you're getting a creamier finish from your beer as well. A bit similar to an ample, but not the same. But you will need a higher dispensing pressure for that. And so we can sort of start to turn that up. I'll put around about sort of, what's that, 8 psi, and I can hear, you can hear it starting to come through. And then we've got the white one connected, which is onto the superdelic. That's going to go into the center tap, and that will be again probably around about 8. You can set each one then individually. This one's not connected yet, but as you can hear, possibly it's starting to put some CO2 into both these two. Sorry, 70-30 into both these two, and the pressure is holding nicely on the CO2. So I'm chuffed with that. Next job is to start to look at the tap lines and the beer lines, and I've got a bit of a mix here. I've got some, looks like 3/8 on the ends there, so I'll probably need some reducers and other little bits and bobs. But this is fairly straightforward now, so all we're doing is we're going, obviously I've got a temporary tap on there, but you will be going from a disconnect with a length of line. I'm going to put a flow restrictor in line. I'll show you that one, and then it literally just goes straight onto the tap. It's as simple as that. Okay then, so we've got 2 of the beer lines on, connected up already, so I'll just show you the setup for that, because like I said, I've got some inline flow controllers set up for that. I would normally have these on fully open, but every now and again you get certain beers and it's just handy to be able to regulate the flow, and these are dead handy, so I'll show you them in a second, so bear with me 1 minute. Right, okay, so we've got our length of beer line. You tend to work on a couple of meters.
There is a whole series of calculations and websites. We'll try and put a link. I'll try and find a couple. I'll put a link in the description below in terms of line sizing, line distance, and all of that kind of stuff. I tend to work on a couple of meters. It's worked well for me in my other kegerator, which was a similar size. No major issues there. So I'm going to stick to that principle. So this bit goes onto the back of the tap. This is a reducer, and that's because I've only got 3/8 elbows, and what comes out of it goes in at 3/8 and comes out at 5/16. And then in this particular case, it's a short distance and then straight out the tap. Then I've got my flow controller. Now, I don't know whether you can see on there, there is an arrow that denotes which direction of flow is. It's at that side, of course it would be. Just there, showing the direction of flow. And then you've got an open and close. So fully closed, you turn it that way, and that effectively creates a restriction within the line itself. So that's fully closed. So if I put that on now, even under pressure, you know, you would get virtually, you would get any beer through at all, and then you just basically throttle it, so you get the right flow for the type of beer and beer style. If you've got an issue with over foaming and stuff like that, these do help in terms of that. And then we've got a couple of meters of 3/8 beer line, and then on the other end we've got the 3/8 push fit and the threaded section. Now the threaded section goes on to, I'm going to, just to mix it up, but I've got this hang, it's actually a Kegland one, but it's what you would see as the traditional ball disconnects, and the ball bit is because there are balls on the inside of there, and as you lift those, it allows the balls to move out of position and then release, and then when it's down, the collar effectively just stops the balls from moving, and that's what locks it on to the pin. So essentially that screws onto there. Show you this, it is. So there is a bit of a it's hard plastic, but there is a seal there, and on the inside of there, which you'll not be able to see, but it's funneled ever so slightly, and that neatly fits up against it. So we've got our, just these out, some hops and some yeast ready for a brew. So red, white and black. Actually, I've done them the wrong way around, so I'm going to swap that over. That's red. Red should be on there. Keep my order. So red, white and black, red, white and black. Push fit fitting. Push fit onto there. And then these are the ones with the little blue locating. I think it basically just stops it from being inadvertently pressed in. So a couple of things I've done differently. Instead of this just coming and sweeping round, it was a bit of a getting in the way of certain things. So I'm going to see if I can get some self-adhesive tags and basically stick it to the back, and then I can put a cable tie through that and it'll nicely hold it in position. But effectively I put 3 elbows on. I also found another check valve. I thought I got one somewhere and I found one, so I've done a check valve on my CO2 as well, and I've also got the elbow on there. That nicely just means that when you open the door it's not all bouncing outwards and stuff like that. So it's been on pressure test for the last 24 hours, longer than you need. It was just towards the end of the day I've done the last few bits, and I thought, right, I might as well get these elbows in and then put it on pressure test. So it's been pressure tested for the last 24 hours and no issues in terms of pressure drops or anything like that. All disconnected from all the kegs, so not actually putting any stuff into CO2 or 70-30 mix into the kegs. So it was testing right from the disconnects all the way through the system, and we're all good to go. I've got one other job that I've spotted that I am going to do a little bit of a modification on, and I'll just show you that one.
Now, I'll just take you off here. Okay, so the drip tray, absolutely great. It's got the riv nuts and the fixings in there. But one of the things I've noticed, and if we could just grab a glass, use this one. Grab a glass. You'll see you're not able to get that in terms of level, but because just here, because the riv nut sits slightly proud, it creates almost like a flange on the outside and on the inside, and that's what grips the metal. It's created a slight gap, so they're almost like having a washer between the screw, the thing that you're fitting, and then actually the material that you're fixing it to. So that means that the bottom part of this, because that's quite a distance, the bottom part of this should be there. And I don't know whether you're getting that from a level point of view. It'll slightly go up. But as you can see, it's slightly down. Now, it's not going to slip off, and there's no sort of issues. I'm not really that concerned about it. But I think from an aesthetics point of view, particularly if I'm doing any videos where there's a pour or that kind of stuff, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mark across the bottom, and then it doesn't really matter, you know, within sort of, what's this, 12 mil, 15 mil. I'm then going to put another couple of riv nuts, probably one about there, into the fridge door, and then that'll mean that it'll sit nicely away, and then it'll be level with the others. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to put the riv nuts in. That'll sort of level my drip tray up nicely, and then we're going to start doing some pipeline cleaning. Okay, so we're getting ready. I've put the two riv nuts in at the back of there, and that's nicely leveled that off, and it's squared off to the actual fridge door now, which I'm impressed with, so that's good. I've got my pipe cleaning, is it a 4 litre Kegland? Use this all the time for that, so I'm going to dispense the required amount, 4 litres, dilute this down, get all my PPE on, and connect that up. I'm not going to show you that. If you want to see how to actually clean your pipes on your kegerator, there's a great video. I'll put a card up, which side will it be? It'll probably be over here. And also put a link in the description to another video that I did a good few months ago, and that takes you through all the steps that you need to understand in terms of cleaning the pipes out. So we'll clean the pipes out. Because they've been sat for a while, I did put some Chemsam in them as I dismantled the old kegerator, but so I will leave them in for a bit longer than normal and give them a good flush through. So we'll get that set up. But if you, like I said, if you're interested, please do check that other video out. And yeah, then we'll come back and do a little bit of a summary on all the different steps that we've gone through, and I'll start to compile a bit of a list in terms of the stuff that you'll need. Right, pipes cleaned, flushed through. We've got our kegs connected up, and we've got Superdelic Sunrise, we've got Citrus Sunburst, and we've got Mosaic Afterglow. But before we actually pull a pint and see what it tastes like and what it looks like, let's just do a quick recap in terms of what we've been up to. Larder fridge, 3 taps, drip tray adjusted so that it's on riv nuts, so that's nice and levelled. We've got a junction box, we've got our Inkbird probe that goes into the bottom through a compression fitting. We've got 2 gas posts, we've got 70-30 gas, and we've got CO2 gas. We've set up our gas bottles, we've set up our regulators, and we've created our gas board. We've plumbed in our pipe work, we've put flow controllers in, we've got our CO2, we've got our 7030, and then in there we've got our Superdelic Sunrise on red, and then we've got a spare keg in there, the Yorkshire Bitter, so that's chilling down in readiness. And here we've got Mosaic Afterglow, and there we've got Citra Sunburst, and still a little bit of space for storing hops and yeast. Might just need to have a look at the temperature probe, but I don't want it touching the fridge wall. Give any off readings. That nicely closes. Our temperature, I need to think about what I'm doing with that. It's currently 8.8, it's set to 6.5. Cracking project. So it just leaves me to have a couple of beers. So there we have it. That's the Kegerator built. I've set the pressures. These will get adjusted, I think, over time. I've obviously been sort of testing the gases and stuff like that, so I've got some probably slightly overpressured and underpressured, so I've sort of purged them off a little bit off each of the keg. And I've got around about 6-7 psi currently, set to all three. So hopefully that's reasonable, and then we'll see how we go, and we can adjust those pressures individually with those 3 regulators. We've got Superdelic, we've got Citra, we've got Mosaic, and all we need to do now is to get a glass and give it a try. Oh yeah, not too bad, not looking too bad. So this is the Citra Sunburst. Not looking too shabby at all. Cheers. That's nice. Catch you on the next one.